No vamos a correr, vamos a atorarle aquí, ¿ok?
Okay, so English and Spanish, English or Spanish or both.
Va a ser English, para que me ayudes ahí,
All right.
ok.
All
En
right.
vivo. Estamos en el aire ahorita, que pronto, my God. I'm not going to wear a jacket. It's too hot in here.
You have to have paper in your pocket?
It's too hot. It's too hot.
I have that effect on people. Sorry.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mario. Al lado conmigo es Mr. John Briscoe. And on the phone, without the cameras, we have Pablo Miramontes from the city of Long Beach. All three of us, we're going to discuss the situation about the State of the Union, economics, educational, and politics. Is that okay with you, John?
Absolutely.
You agree with that, Pablo?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so question number one right now is because that's fresh. The information that was released yesterday about the investigation with John Durham. What's your opinion on that?
Oh, I have lots of opinions, and that's a big opinion. The Durham report covers 4 years plus of behavior by political actors, and it divided itself into two sectors. The first sector was behavior by the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Is supposed to be unbiased and have no political opinion at all. And it turns out they had their nose stuck under the tent like the camel, sticking their nose into everything in places where they didn't belong. And they undertook investigations without any basis in law, and they didn't check out things that they were investigating as the law required. It was a cheat and a lie, and it was horrible. And it created a whole false narrative of Russian interference with the election. That cost people votes to run for office, not just the president. It cost people in Congress. It cost all kinds of people votes. And now it turns out in the Durham report, absolutely not one scintilla, not one single thing in the Trump, that awful story about Trump dancing on a hotel bed in the Soviet Union, and all that, all lies, all lies. That's the first part. Then the other half of the Durham report was about the intelligence agencies, the NSA and the CIA and the ABC and the DEF, all that alphabet soup of organizations contrived to create a false impression of a falsehood that they knew was false. Hunter Biden is President Biden's son. He has major problems in life.
Hold that thought for a minute. Pablo, what's your reaction? Can you elaborate a little bit on the investigation about the president, whatever happens in between all these agencies, please?
Okay, so it sounds like you had quite a bit of preparation time, which I didn't.
No, not really. Like I told you yesterday, we are discussing something that is recently happened yesterday. So whatever you can elaborate on it, that'd be cool.
Okay, so I have a couple of thoughts. Number one, when you have, you know about spies, right?
Yes.
So my understanding is that this all started because there were some Russian ties that had connections to some of the people working for Trump, and there were actually people that got prison time for that. Right? They were indicted. They admitted to what happened, and so and it's proven actually that Trump did have those connections, and it did not affect the election because some of this stuff didn't come out until after he was president. So how can you say that it affected the election? In fact, if the FBI was so unbiased, why did the FBI come out a week before the election and say that Hillary Clinton's emails were a big deal, right? So.
Well.
Okay, Pablo, a ver, John, can you get that information across?
Yes, the Durham report that came out now, 2 years and 4 years after, conclusively said there was not one scintilla, not anything valid about the claims of Russian collusion, Russian interference, Russian.
There were people that got prison time for this.
I believe that the one prison was the guy who took bribes and money in Turkey or something. My concern isn't so much about the Russian collusion, it's the... I'm sorry, what?
That's a Russian tie, no? That's a Russian tie. Who?
It was...
Durham is a special investigator that was
I'm
They're by
stretching.
Trump.
Pablo, it's the FBI violated the laws and rules of conduct for how they made the investigation. What the conclusions were would be, the Durham report concludes that there was nothing there, and you're concluding there may have been something with a indictment and a jail term, but the FBI operated incorrectly.
Durham was a handpicked person to whitewash all this. He was a person biased. The reason why he was put there, he was planted there by Trump right before he left, and this report was coming because he planted them. This is his special counsel. It's like the special counsel that was supposedly investigating him for those Russian ties during his administration.
He certainly has Russian ties. He built a hotel there. But my concern isn't the Russian ties or not. It's the FBI operating incorrectly. And that was only half the Durham report. The other half was the intelligence agencies, the CIA and the NSA. And Blinken, our current Secretary of State, garnered the 21 different spy people, Clapper and Brennan, huge big people, to sign a letter claiming that the laptop from Biden's son was Russian misinformation. And that's a problem because it's not their business and not their job to say those things. As it turns out,
I'm not a Democratic operative. I don't agree with the Democrats in many things. But the Republican Party has corruption all the way from the top all the way to the bottom. We could go into detail about that, but with Hunter Biden,
Go ahead. Go on and share whatever you think about the computer. Can you elaborate on that?
So Hunter Biden, he seems to be a troubled kid. The issue with Hunter Biden is that they were talking about his laptop during the election. After 2 years of Biden being in there, they haven't found anything legitimate in that laptop. And I'm definitely not a Biden supporter. I don't think I'll be voting for him again. I wasn't in favor of him in the beginning. I was more of a Bernie Sanders supporter, but he got railroaded by the mainstream media. So 2 times already. Once during the Trump-Hillary contest, and now with the Biden, when Biden Trump, during those primaries. So, but with the Hunter Biden laptop, I was hearing Rush Limbaugh talk about that Hunter Biden laptop before it was even an issue, and I think, if I recall, Rudy Giuliani had a hold of the laptop at some point, and yet the only thing that they found on it was just like pornography. I don't see what the big issue was. So you have all these people that are making stories up about this laptop that may or may not exist, and it seems to me like it's all just kind of like dirt. They're just kicking dirt around to see what sticks, and I don't think the same thing was done to Trump. Trump has he's gotten off easy in everything he's done. His entire life he's been a criminal. He's evaded taxes for, half of his life. He's raped women. He's touched them by the private parts, and admitted to it on tape. It doesn't even come close to comparing to what Biden or his son have done.
All right, cool. Can you, just to finalize this thought about the Hunter, can you finish it up by, there's people that believe that the laptop, it don't exist, and there's people that believe that it exists because there's so many emails and so many pictures of it. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, and then we'll go to another segment?
The Durham report will be examined and parsed and taken apart. The Durham report had 2 parts. It was the FBI conduct and the conduct of the CIA and the NSA. And the report concluded that all those agencies acted incorrectly and improperly. What they decide, what they find or found, is the laptop true or does it exist or not? That's a whole other matter. My concern is that we have our secret spy agencies spying on ourselves, which is against the law, and standing up and taking political stands on things that they really shouldn't be doing. What comes out of the
I
laptop
do
is,
agree with you on that because that's been going on since, the FBI has always been. Uh, some people say the FBI was involved against the Black Panthers and framed them and exploded, like did bombings and things like that. They may or may not have been involved with the assassination of Martin Luther King too. The FBI has always had its hand in everything, depending on what administration is there. I don't think I trust Trump's hand-picked person to investigate the investigation against him. Uh, you know, it doesn't ring true.
yeah, that's a fair point. Whatever they come up and the report's now out, we can all read it, 300 pages. My concern is it's against the law for CIA and NSA to involve in domestic activities, and coming out with a letter of endorsement and so on is wrong. So what?
Was it wrong for them to open an investigation against Hillary Clinton's emails
I don't.
with
That
the election?
the Hillary Clinton email thing is so far back in history. I'm so young I can hardly remember. But
2016, John. 2016.
yeah, no, that was that whole the escaped whoever let loose of all those Democrat Party emails that were so embarrassing. I didn't follow that much at all. It was.
All right, we can touch that next week or something. Let's talk about corruption, Pablo. Would you, in your opinion, the government from the top down, FBI, CIA, and all these agencies are corrupt?
Yes. The issue is that I think that the kleptocrats have control of the government from the top to the bottom. I think both parties have some, there's some corruption in both parties. It's, they don't really work for the people. They work for themselves. They work for the big corporations. I'll give you an example. During COVID, you all got like $1,000, $1,200 check, right?
Right.
Per person. But corporations, some of them got billions, some of them got millions, some of them got, a couple of thousand. PPP loans that were forgiven, So when somebody looks around and says, well, why do we have all this inflation? Well, look at all the money that was just handed out. Banks got 0% loans. And so now they raise the rates to slow down inflation. It's mostly affecting the poor people. And it's even affecting banks because some of them were not prepared for this jacking up of the rates so quickly because they're trying to slow down inflation. So. But as soon as they saw that it affected rich people's money, they bailed out these banks. The FDIC has.
Yeah, they changed their rules midstream from 250,000 to an unlimited piggy bank purse to go attack.
Yeah.
And it was,
Because,
and it's.
why? Because it's the rich people. They're saving themselves.
I think you're right. I agree with you that the FBI, which is a domestic investigating agency, they have a right and obligation to investigate U.S. citizens, but the CIA and NSA does not. They're all corrupt at the top. I will need to assert here that the working men and women in the field on the line of duty are not corrupt. They're out there trying to do their job, do the best they can to catch the bad guys. In the U.S., that's the FBI, and then track the bad guys overseas. I have friends who are in the CIA, and they're not at the top level corrupt. They're down there going, are you kidding me? So you're right. It's corruption at the top in violation of U.S. laws of conduct. The people on the street, the feet on the street, I call them, are just appalled.
Can I get another before I forget this about election interference? All this information in between the agencies, FBI and all these agencies, creating stories and having all these stations, CNN, CBS, MSNBC, broadcasting total negative information about either party and vice versa. That can be called election interference, isn't it?
They're
Convincing people to believe in certain things that are not supposed to be true.
Well, it's true in the mind of the beholder. Pablo has beliefs I don't agree with. I wouldn't say they're not true. I would say that they're not correct. And we could have a battle of the bands, and we could compare notes and facts.
No, but you're missing his question. He's asking you if the election interference by, for example, CNN just hosted a town hall of a rapist. They gave him 1 hour to sit there and talk in front of a crowd that was positive to him. that's free media. That should be considered a campaign contribution. Why didn't they do that to Bernie Sanders? Why didn't they do that to,
Good question.
somebody else?
Yeah, good question.
It's CNN is not a liberal station. Fox is a very biased station. You essentially don't have both sides on TV. It tends to be biased towards conservatives because conservatives take the side of rich people's money. They lower the taxes and they pretend that they're Christians, that they want to do something about God, but God and money are not compatible. Jesus said to kick out the money changers. Just a second, I have a call.
Okay,
Pablo, I have a small. What percent of the taxes in California do you think are paid by rich people? The top 1%. The top 1% of people in California, what percent of the state taxes, income taxes, do they pay?
Do you have an idea, Pablo? Pablo? Hello, do we lose him?
I haven't even told him the answer, and he's already so shocked he fell off his chair. Hello? There we go.
Hello?
So,
Okay, he's not.
I'm back.
Pablo, what percent of the income taxes do you think the top 1% wealthy people pay in California today?
I would say it's probably close to less than 10%.
It's 50%. 1 in 2
No.
tax dollars are paid by the super rich. That's a problem because when they leave California, they take away a disproportionate share of income. 50% of Californians pay no income
Well,
tax at all.
That's probably a state tax, right? That's a state tax. That's not
That's
a
a
federal
state
tax.
income tax, not federal. I'm talking about state income tax.
Yeah, right. It's a state income tax, and a lot of people are leaving, supposedly, and a lot of people are coming in. Now,
A lot of people leaving, the rich people and the poor people coming in. You think that's a good idea, Pablo?
well, are you aware that in 1930 that the top income federal income tax was over 90%?
No,
Are you
I
aware of
wasn't
that?
aware of that.
It was. The facts are that nobody paid that amount because of all the write-offs and exemptions and things. But it was
You don't think-
90%. It was.
You don't think California has write-offs and exemptions for the rich?
There's write-off and exemptions. If you're able to qualify for them, I guess you'd be rich. The point is that today, the income in California, 1 out of every $2 is depend on that upper tier. And the other half to that equation, Pablo, is that 50% of Californians do not pay any income tax. I have a Google screen. Is that...
What happened with the Google scene? ¿Estamos bien? Okay, go see.
So it's a
Okay. He's
and
working on it.
the 50% that don't pay any income taxes are minimum wage workers and earners, and that's an increasingly larger share of this state, and you can't run a state on
Right,
no
I
income
agree with you.
taxes coming in.
That's not sustainable. That's not sustainable.
And then 1% paying
And neither
50%.
is the federal income tax, because when the federal income tax, the rich are essentially paying, as a percentage of their income, they're actually paying less than the middle class. You have Jeff Bezos paying essentially zero. You have Elon Musk paying essentially zero, whereas last year I think I paid like $12,000 in federal income taxes. at least.
What should Musk pay, do you think?
I think he should pay I think a 25% would be fair.
So you think Musk should pay 25% of his net worth, of his income? What should he pay?
Well, he's not paying anything because it's not based on his net worth, and he's essentially using the loopholes to pay zero. In fact, he's actually being subsidized. The federal government is giving him money to do the space program. The federal government is giving him money to do his electric cars through the subsidies through the program. So
Sure.
so he's actually a welfare queen.
The $7,000 per car subsidy certainly is that. So how much, has anybody seen his tax returns? How do these claims come about? Tax returns are confidential, by the way. How do we know what Musk pays in federal income tax? I don't know. How do you know? I'm curious.
Because it's obvious how they do this because they all do this. They have stock options. We know how many stock options he redeems. We know how many, when he sells. We know when he buys. We know what he buys. He bought Twitter. We know all this. This is all public information.
Pablo,
People can figure it out.
a stock option is not income. A stock option is a kiss and a promise, and you hope someday it may amount to something. And this is the problem with rich versus poor, in my view. At some point, when you get $300,000 or $400,000 a year in income, after you bought your big fancy house and a few cars, there's not a lot more to consume, and so then you end up acquiring money to give to your kids or give away to charity. So I don't know what Musk pays in income tax, and I don't think anybody else does except for the federal government. Same thing with Trump. We had no idea what he paid in income taxes.
Oh, we know now.
We know now because
everything
somebody
that
cheated and lied and squealed and gave it out.
No,
But
but everything that they said about him was true about his taxes. All those rumors, all those things that the New York Times had on him, and they were finally released when, after all the kicking and screaming, because Biden released his taxes, Hillary released her taxes, Bill Clinton released his taxes. What makes Trump so special? When we finally got a hold of Trump's taxes, everything that they said, every exact same thing that they said was true. He didn't like it. He didn't want that public. What transparency is that?
it's against the law. Do you think it was right that somebody lied and cheated and released his taxes? Was that a good thing?
Well, Trump lied and cheated when he filed them. Every time he signed his name to those documents, he was lying and cheating. He was saying that his properties were worth something, and then he lowered the properties, or that he was losing money on his income. So he didn't pay any taxes. It's because he had losses, right? But if he's a billionaire, how could he be losing money?
We don't know what kind of.
Stay right there in that position that you are, because I can hear you better.
So with Trump and his taxes, he has what are called paper losses, and if you had the accountancy depreciation write-off, plus he had special credits on his Taj Mahal place.
Do you think that that's okay to have paper losses for your entire life? Where you can live the life of luxury and you have homeless people on the street. So you essentially are telling the U.S. government that you're a deadbeat. You can't contribute to the society to which you live. And so you're okay with homeless people, but yet you can have golden toilets and you can fly around the world in your private jet, but you have paper losses? Is that okay with you?
So is depreciation bad? Is that what you're saying? I don't know. Or should Donald Trump have no depreciation because he's rich and other people can?
In my own opinion, and between you two guys, I think Donald Trump, what he did is he just used the system and the loopholes
Oh, yeah.
of it. You know what I mean? And everybody, all the big rich people does it.
Well,
The thing is,
yeah.
like he said, it makes sense for this guy to do that much like every year for the rest of the 40, 50 years. It was a good share some of the richness to the poor people, as I was trying to say.
However, if you're familiar with the tax law, depreciation, if you take it, you have to pay it back until you die. Then you get what's called a gross up. So I don't. It's not a.
There's a difference between using the laws to your advantage, but actually doing tax fraud. And I think Trump is lucky that he hasn't been caught all these years, and they've been easy on him. I get that, but I think that what he's done is tax fraud. It doesn't smell right. I think that the reason why he went after Obama is because he had a big tax bill. There was a big tax bill that he was supposed to pay, but he never did pay it, and so now he owes all that money, and so this was his way of kind of delaying it or getting the IRS to say that it was
I worked for the nation's largest privately held consumer packaged goods company, the Mars Corporation. They make M&Ms and Pedigree pet food and Uncle Ben's rice and Wrigley chewing gum. And they have an IRS team that sits in their office all year long watching everything that goes on. They audit everything. And Donald Trump, with as big as he claims he is, I have no idea what he's really worth. He has auditors in his place. If there's fraud, then you should be a whistleblower and report it. I believe that the IRS, especially with this public persona, has audited, looked at, and checked his stuff upside one, down the other. If you don't agree
the IRS, I've been audited 3 or 4 times, but I think the IRS does not audit the rich like they do the poor because they've been gutted. The Republicans just passed, I think a few years ago, they passed a bill to cut the IRS budget so that people wouldn't be audited. That's the modus operandi of the Republican Party. They're always on the side of the rich.
Well, they audit away. They do what are called letter audits. I've had those letter audits where they find something and they ask you to provide proof of something, and then you send it in. It's okay. No, Donald Trump's audited and looked at, especially all the rich people, because they pay all the taxes. The rich people pay all the taxes. We may not like the percent they pay.
He said he was being audited for 8 years straight.
Yeah, every year,
And
all
when
the time.
when they looked into it, they said he wasn't being audited. It was all a lie so that he wouldn't have to release his taxes. Are you okay with him lying to you like that? It just doesn't.
Who said who said that there?
It seems like you'll just excuse everything that he does. He's a criminal. He's a liar.
I didn't hear anything about that. He wasn't being audited. They're audited all the time. But it's wrong for people to put other people's tax returns out there like that. That's against the law, no matter what you like. But the fraud thing is a serious charge, and I don't with the IRS. If they let fraud happen with Trump, then they let fraud happen with all the other yeah. And I don't.
Well, that may be so. Probably Elon Musk has a bunch of fraud too. He just hasn't been caught yet.
Yeah. Okay, Pablo.
And I would imagine Jeff Bezos has fraud too. It's either that or the system is entirely corrupt and it has no hope of being redeemed at this point.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about security. About the little guys over here on the street selling paletas and ice cream and all the goodies. They're not safe anymore because there's no police keeping an eye on these people. What can we do? Pablo?
Well, there are issues with the police because I guess they're not doing their job. I guess Black Lives Matter hurt their feelings. The only thing that Black Lives Matter wanted was just to, not be killed on sight. Have a judge, jury, and executioner do it right there on the spot. That's all they wanted. And now because they protested.
What say you, Mr.
Well, if we have a culture of lawlessness, it's a fundamental problem. This new California law about shoplifting, anything over $925 under, won't be prosecuted as a crime.
That's no good.
And it's why Walgreens closing their stores in San Francisco, because people go in, fill up a shopping cart, and then walk out the door, and the employee opens the door for them. Because to prosecute Walmart or Walgreens is going to have to go to small claims court, and it's just ridiculous. So we create this this atmosphere of crime. I used to take the Metro Blue Line to go to work. The Metro used to have sheriffs on it to keep it clean and people obey the law. No food, no snacks, no parading up and down begging for money, no nothing. And now they don't. And the Metro Blue Line is a crime-ridden, nasty, disgusting, dirty, smelly place, and the city buses as well. So we have a problem of just enforcing laws. And if the police...
I ride the train every day. I know all about it.
So did you ever ride it when the sheriffs were patrolling it?
I did. I've been riding the train more than probably 23 years.
So do you remember it was clean? Like they cited. Now they don't cite. Nobody gets cited for anything. They've got cameras everywhere and see the criminal behavior under the laws, and they don't do anything about it. And all that does is engender more and more bad behavior and crime, and the buses and the metro as well. And so the little guy on the street is stuck when nobody does anything to keep things safe. They get short-sheeted.
Who's in charge? Who's in charge of the security of the communities?
It's the police, and unfortunately, to depend on calling the police with a 15 and 20-minute response time or not ever, because they parse their calls. They triage. If you're being stabbed in the street and you're bleeding all over, they'll come out. If you were run into by a red light driver and you're kind of bleeding, but you're sitting in the front seat and you're okay waiting for the ambulance, they'll come out much later. And then if you have
they want to charge you $1,200 if the ambulance come in too.
Right. Oh.
So it's messed up.
The problem is
what
that.
do you recommend?
I recommend that we tell the police what we want, and what we want is the laws enforced. Not draconian, every single law. If you drop a piece of litter on the floor, it's a $20 fine. But there are certain big laws One of them, Pablo, is it's against the law to be under the influence on public property. Were you aware of that, Pablo?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, of
there-
course, but so we have people laying out with a beer can next to them in the parks and on the streets, and we have breathalyzers. We can detect cannabis as well. We can detect tetrahydrocannabinol, and that's THC, the stuff that makes marijuana.
Yeah, all the laws are enforced selectively. You've got some people who are druggies, but they're rich. They go buy their drugs on Fifth Avenue. They're okay, but then you've got somebody on the street with an ounce of marijuana, and they get sent to jail. It's all.
Oh, I didn't say possession. I said under the influence, and that's an important difference because possession or trading or micrograms and stuff, but under the influence and having used it when it's against the law is a concern of mine. So my answer is first, alcohol and THC should be enforced. And so you can't just crash in the park under the influence of alcohol or marijuana and sleep and urinate and defecate all over. And we can also detect heroin as well. So if we took care of the substance use on public property, not on private property, although most cities, Pablo, I don't know if you knew this, have a law that says if you drink a beer on your front porch, you can get a ticket. I don't need to enforce that. But if you're drinking and using substances on public property, that should be enforced. And people should go into court and have a choice to go to jail or go to rehab. And then from there, if they come out, that's one strike and you're out, because after that, you go to jail again. We don't enforce our laws that create these behavior problems for our kids to walk by on the way to school, for us to have to deal with driving down the street, 10 cities. So my first thing is substance use on public property. Stop it and go enforce the law. And the city managers, and that's who run the cities, the city councils are elected. They hire a general manager, a city manager. Those people need to go make their police departments enforce the laws to clean up the cities. We have housing facilities under the Boise, Idaho court case ruling that said you can't enforce homelessness without a place to go put them. We have places to put them now. They need to go be put for their behavior problems, and that's public use on public property of substances.
Would you agree with that, Pablo?
In part, it's not an easy subject. There is homelessness. There's a lot of money used towards homelessness, but it's not being allocated correctly. It goes. I think some of it's wasted because I've heard stories where it costs $100,000 to build a little homeless home or something.
It's a waste of money. Management is very important.
It's a waste of money. You've got at the same time, some people want to be helped, some people don't want to be helped. It's
that's the thing.
and then you have some cities that do dumping. Like they'll send over their homeless and they'll dump them on Skid Row, and that just is it exacerbates the problem.
What's your opinion when they legalize marijuana? You okay? You in favor of that?
Well, marijuana is a pretty harmless substance. I don't think you've ever heard of somebody killing somebody while they're under the influence of marijuana. Some people call it a gateway drug.
But right now, it's so much chemicals into it. It's really addictive.
I don't think I'm an expert on that, but I know a lot of people who have used it. They used it for many years. They have no issues with it. It really depends on what strain you get. Maybe some of it's laced with something else. It's a different. I think the experience is different with everybody. I mean, I don't want to talk about something that I don't know much
Okay,
about.
that's fair enough. What about you?
No,
John?
I have a son. I don't want him using marijuana. I think legalizing marijuana was a bad idea. It's just a needless drug. Now, I do have an opinion about marijuana. I think that 20% of marijuana, people will use marijuana, and on a regular, like you said, your friend's puffing away on the weed for whatever times a week and doesn't seem to be impacted by it. I think there's a 20% figure. That's just a wild assumed guess out of my head. But and most people are not going to use marijuana. And then some people will use it once a month or maybe once a week on the weekend. So marijuana is just it's not a great thing. And I'm not in favor of legalizing it. I think it was a bad idea.
I think the medical uses of it are proven. It does help some people with cancer or
Yeah.
what is that? Seizures, AIDS. There is medical uses for it,
Yeah,
and I think
that's cool. Yeah, medical things I think is okay. It should be prescribed by a doctor, but not in each corner of the little cities in here. That's what makes all these problems.
and I think to a certain extent, I mean, it's a plant. It has many commercial uses too. It's the paper for marijuana is more durable. I think the reason why it was banned, that there's a little bit of historical reasoning behind it. It's a little bit racist. That's why they called it marijuana. Marijuana. It has kind of a Latino connotation.
And for the near future, Pablo and John, as far as information, what can we do for the people to be alert and who to listen to and what stations to follow? Like you said yesterday about the radio station that you used to listen to, all of a sudden disappear. What do you recommend right now, nowadays, who to listen to and what to pay attention or what? Because the situation of this country is not, it doesn't look good. Pablo?
Well, me personally, I was thinking, because it's a hard question. I used to listen to a lot of conservative radio and liberal radio because I've been into politics much long before I even went to college. I just found it entertaining. I used to listen to Rush Limbaugh until he turned into a, well, he was probably always speaking for the rich person, but to a certain extent, he was entertaining until he wasn't. But slowly, all the radio stations got bought up by, the biggest radio station in communication, and they all turned conservative. And I don't think that that's good for either conservatives or liberals, because you only hear one side.
No, I agree.
Television, you essentially don't have any liberal TV either. CNN is not liberal. MSNBC is not liberal. So you don't get both sides.
So how do you categorize those two stations or three or four of them? You say they're not liberal?
No, they're not.
MS.
What's your opinion on that?
I think those two stations, CNN.
Propaganda or what is it?
No, they just have a line that they're told. Everybody on those stations reads a script. Because if they don't read a script and they say something stupid, the station can be sued. Everybody, and I believe also Tucker Carlson, I don't know if that's true, he claims it's not, but he's gone now anyway.
Yeah.
But no, those stations, those people all have scripts that they read and adhere to. It's the reason they have the same talking points across all the stations that feeds into the political stream of things. And there's talking points in those.
Who do they work for?
Well, they work for the corporations. It's corporate.
Exactly. Bingo.
Bingo. That's exactly right. He's talking about corporations, the big guys.
Yeah, but the corporations are those particular whoever owns those CNN and their ratings are down by half now.
Hey, Pablo, do you think CNN or other stations have an agenda?
Of course they do. Yeah. The agenda is to keep the people rich and everybody else, the middle class, poor.
Well, the middle class is shrinking. In California, it's gone to way less than half. It used to be way over half. So that's a problem because more and more people have less and less money and aspirations. And you have a family, you have kids to worry about, and you have things to take care of that are far bigger than mine, Pablo. So those are concerns.
Exactly. There's a reason for that, and that's all part of their plan.
Okay, so...
And the reason why Tucker Carlson is not on, I mean, he's been lying on TV. He's been saying racist things, white supremacist things. Fox News never did anything about it. But as soon as they said something about another corporation and there was money involved, and some of that information came to light, Tucker Carlson has called his own viewers, nasty things. But they never did anything about it until it affected their pocketbook.
So when we talk about white supremacy, to me, in my own opinion, white supremacy is a heavy sentence to say. Supremacy is something supreme. What's your opinion on that?
Well, that's
Somebody says that guy belongs to the white supremacy. Can you describe that a little bit?
I've done excuse me, I've done research on this particular matter, and this country. First of all, I had the Constitution with the 3/5 definition of a black person versus a full count. They did that for political expediency, so the South wouldn't dominate things, and they wouldn't count slaves as 0 people, and they wouldn't count them as 100 one full person. So they went to the 3/5 proposition in the Constitution, and it was race-based. And so from that time on, with the slavery in the South, we had the Civil War, and then we have the 13th and the 14th Amendment. And those amendments define discrimination, illegal discrimination in this country, in the Constitution, as being based on race, and there are 3 races: Negroid, Caucasoid, and Mongoloid. That's race. So race, national origin, ethnicity, and color of skin. So in our Constitution, in this country, those are protected. You can't discriminate on the basis of the color of your skin. So we go to white supremacy. That whole white supremacy is ridiculous, because the mix of people in this country, what is white? And I think it's a whole crock, and I don't, there's people that call themselves white supremacists. Have they done a 23andMe DNA test? I did that. I found out I'm 1% Native American. Had no idea. So the whole race, the white supremacy thing is just a stupid, idiot proposition. It's very real with some people that go out and parade around with that, but it has no basis, and it's actually against the Constitution. Color of skin is illegal in this country.
What say you, Pablo?
Well, that's true. I mean, it should. Well, it is. After the Civil Rights Act was passed, it should be illegal to discriminate, but yet it still happens. And to say it doesn't happen is you know, it's turning it's turning a blind eye to it. It's, you know, so.
Well, the Civil Rights Act and the UNRRA Act in California, they added categories and classes of protection. Protection from discrimination in housing and motels and hotels and all of that. But the fundamental constitutional protection against discrimination based on the color of your skin, it's right there, skin color, is huge. And I think that's symbolic and actual about how great this country is. You can't.
One of the things that I really
I agree with you. I agree with you on that one. Yeah, I mean, even the conservatives were against it, and that's what made some conservative Democrats turn to the Republican Party, because there's some.
No, you're
even
right.
though Lincoln was the one who freed the slaves, there were conservative Democrats who switched parties because, you know, I mean, history changes, parties change. And you know that's the base that Trump woke up. He woke up the racists. He made them feel empowered. He made them feel. That's why they were chanting for him, you know, with their pitchforks and torches, and that's why they came out for him. That's why they tried to overturn the election, the legitimate election that they lost.
Do you think that Donald Trump is responsible for all these problems that we have right now as far as race? Everything has got to do with race. Everything has to do with race, no matter what nowadays. You think he's responsible for that?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Did you
move far away from the microphone, or?
No. Do you think Donald Trump is responsible for this situation that the country is going through right now, that everything has to do with race? Everything, no matter what, everything has got to do with race.
No.
To me, it looks
No,
like
there's been racism. There's been racism for many years.
Listen to this. To me, for a lot of people that I know, when a black guy gets killed, right away everything has to do with race. Everything has got to do with race. They don't wait until they get the details about what happens, how, or when did it happen. But everything, they throw the race card right in it.
Well, racism has existed long before Trump was even born.
Okay.
Trump is not the issue. The issue is that it does exist, and when you see there's no excuse for it. I've seen videos of people being executed, judge, jury, and executioner on the spot, whereas you see the same video of a white person doing the same thing, even toting guns around in front of police, and nothing happens to them. Why? Because there's a double standard.
Well, Pablo, in truth, I think 26 states allow you to tote a gun around. You're not allowed to brandish, but you can tote a gun around. It's called open carry, and the police can't do anything about it.
I've seen a black person walking around on the street, toting a gun, not threatening anybody, and he gets jumped by the police. I saw a video with that. Now, he wasn't executed, but I think there's a difference. Like that Kyle Rittenhouse, the young kid, he wasn't even an adult. He went out of state. He went to another state looking for trouble with a gun that wasn't his, that he shouldn't have had, and he killed somebody. I don't think it was a black person, but my point is that he killed somebody. He got away with it. There were no consequences for him, and yet I guarantee you that if a black kid was walking around with a gun, the same kind of gun, that he would have been executed on the spot.
Pablo, the fact on Rittenhouse is he did not take a gun from Illinois to Wisconsin. The gun was in Wisconsin when he got there, and he had a gun pointed. He didn't bring a gun in. He did not have a gun in. It was there, and somebody pointed a gun at him, and that was the trial.
No.
And the person that pointed the gun said, "Yeah, I pointed a gun at him." He was still alive. He wasn't the one shot.
He should have never been there.
Can't speak to that.
It's like manslaughter, right? It's like manslaughter. If I'm driving a car and I accidentally run somebody over, not intentionally, I should be prosecuted because I contributed to that death. He should have gotten at least manslaughter, and he got nothing. He got away with it. He's a murderer.
Okay, well,
That's Pablo's opinion.
yeah, that's Pablo's opinion. The jury said no, and the judge said no, and the law said no, but
That's what's so good about right now. What we're doing is
The judge was on his side. The judge was on his side. He gave him like 2 or 3 free passes. He said, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that. It's okay.
Yeah.
But race is a very big and serious problem, and it's one that is poorly dealt with. California has a multitude of races, and most of the rest of the country, when you say race, it's black and white. Chicago has a large Hispanic community now, but most of the rest of the country, it's black or white. And the history of black and white relations in this country, even with the 13th and 14th Amendment, is sad and pathetic, and it's really terrible. The Republicans after the Civil War, the Reconstruction Republicans, began to bring in integration and involvement with the African American, now emancipated people. There were people in legislatures, there were people elected to local city councils, and then the presidential election of the 1880s killed all of that effort, and it went back to Jim Crow. The Democrats ran the South, separate and never ever equal, and that's what we're stuck with, is a horrible residue of poor treatment from all that time. But it's still illegal. You cannot discriminate on white, Mario, and it should be followed up in that way.
All right. You agree with that, Pablo?
I do, yeah. Obviously, it's illegal. It still happens, but it's illegal.
Okay.
And I'm thankful for that, at least.
Please. We're getting ready to wrap it up. If anything else you want to say about what we did today, Pablo, or would you like to do it again next week?
Let me think about it. It was entertaining.
This is just the beginning. Later on, once you get to be in camera, it's going to be a totally different story. Today, it's just like everything else. When you start, it takes a little bit to develop. But I'd like you to enjoy us next week, if you can. We're going to wrap it up in a few minutes. We are broadcasting this show from Estrellas de Los Angeles TV. So I expect a better show next week.
And better. We'll be better and better.
Yeah.
And pretty soon, Pablo will come to agree with each other. There's an amazing idea.
That's the thing. That's why I
Well,
say.
that's the thing. When I used to listen to talk radio,
Yeah.
I enjoyed honest discourse. What I don't enjoy is when you have somebody lying and obfuscating and distorting the truth.
No, our goal is to bring honest. Our goal is to bring others. That's why, even if we disagree on something, but the idea is get the message honest and recommend people what to do and where to follow, what to listen, and things like that. No other way around.
Yeah, I agree.
All right?
Pablo, nice to meet you. Thank you very much. Great to talk with you.
Okay, Mr. Jan
Thank
Briscoe,
you.
thank you very much for being with us. And Pablo, thank you very much. I really appreciate what you did tonight. Hopefully, I'll see you next week. And to all of you guys out there and a través de Estrella de Los Ángeles, good evening.
Good evening.
Este es Mario.